You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, where today's topic is uncovering all of the things no one tells you when it comes to adulthood. My first memory of, holy shit, I'm an adult and I have to deal with this, was while I was having my first crisis, just 6 days after moving into my very first apartment, and on day 4 of my first full-time job. And it was when I got a call from one of my roommates telling me our apartment is flooding. We lived on the 3rd floor, so I was very confused. I had just bought brand new furniture, finished setting up my room, was still extremely nervous to be in an office and with a job and responsibilities. I only knew one other person in Orlando, and it was one of my sister's best friends. And then I get this call in the middle of my workday. I can't just go home. It was my 4th day, and my office was 30 miles from my apartment. So I literally had to wait the entire day to return, see the damage, and figure out where the hell I'm sleeping that night so I can make it to work again the next morning. Needless to say, I was a disaster crying in the office. Adulthood just smacked me every which way across the face. This was my apartment, my responsibility, my job to figure out what to do next. It turns out what happened was someone was walking the attic, which was above the 4th floor, stepped off the platform and onto the fire sprinkler pipe, broke it, and literal tons of water came rushing down the unit above us, trickled down through the walls and ceiling, and flooded our place. That Saturday, so mind you, this was on a Thursday, that Saturday was the UF versus UM game in Orlando, and my friends were going to come stay with me, and I was so excited to show off my new place, a new city, but it also meant that there were no hotels available for the apartment to put the 3 of us who just met 5 days prior in a hotel. They offered up a 1-bedroom apartment that reeked of cigarette smoke and an air mattress for us to all share. My roommates were from Orlando, so they both had family to stay with. I did not. Thank God for my sister's friend Paige, who said I could come stay with her as this mess got taken care of, and thank God all of the water that came into our apartment only affected the main living quarters and hallways and none of the bedrooms, but they had to shut off all the power. We hadn't gotten a couch yet, so nothing of ours really got ruined. It was just a fiasco of a situation to deal with when I was already filled with nerves and stress with wanting to do well in my first job. Needless to say, your girl was unwell. Now, I don't want to say adulthood is stressful, but I did have to learn right out of the gates that shit is going to happen, and you're going to have to learn what you can control to get a grip on your situation. Little did I know what the following 7 months had in store for me with the global pandemic. But this episode isn't just about my crappy start to adulthood. This episode is to really shed light to all of the things no one tells you or prepares you for as you move through your 20s, which is essentially what this entire podcast is about. So I figured, why not make an episode giving an overview of what you don't know you don't know. Like how no one told you that your first job is probably going to suck. That first full-time job is more about learning how to manage a full-time job than it is about finding your calling. Figuring out where to plug in a social life, with working out, with going grocery shopping, with having a hobby, and the confusion that comes with being able to have a full day of school, practice or games, being in 4 clubs, managing homework and studying, seeing friends, all in high school, is nowhere near the same as in the real world or what you experienced the previous 4 years in college. That now you have way less energy and what seems to be far less time to do anything outside of your full-time job. but also how important it is to have a life outside of your job. A lesson I learned the very hard way was not tying my identity and purpose to my full-time job. Yes, if you're an entrepreneur, it's literally who you are to your core. But if you're working under someone else, it oh so most definitely is not. The way I see it is your 9 to 5 can serve as 3 potential things. 1, to support the life and activities you want to do outside of work. 2, to create the bridge for you to get to where you actually want to go. And 3, to give you life where it is very fulfilling. It can be more than one of those 3, but what you really want to make sure of, and that no one tells you about beforehand, is that your job is not who you are and should not take away from you living your life, where it's causing you so much stress and unhappiness you have no energy to do anything else. It also should not be who you are if you're working under someone else, because your job is not guaranteed. You could lose it with 0 notice and be left with nothing, which is why I stress the life you need to keep living outside of it. The friendships, hobbies, routine, and other enjoyment or peaceful factors that will act as your support system for when you do lose your job, either by getting fired, which I hope does not happen, furloughed, laid off, or you quit. Any of that is bound to happen in your 20s, especially since 2020. Apparently, 1 in 5 young millennials have experienced some form of job loss since the pandemic. I am definitely one of those people, and it completely changed the trajectory of my life as a result. No one told me the likelihood of losing your job in your 20s, but also no one experienced a global pandemic in their 20s to know that it would fuck up the entire market and have multiple repercussions even 5 years later. No one also tells you how hard it would be to quit your job when the time comes. You're going to feel this sense of guilt or duty that you owe your employer an easy transition out, or that it's not a good time. So allow me to be the one to tell you, you don't owe them shit. This is kind of morbid to say, but if you were to die unexpectedly, your role would be replaced within the week. Yet you have this tie to your job. You don't ever want to burn bridges, but also it's important to understand that there is never going to be a right time to give your notice. Don't worry about the company. They'll be fine. Worry about yourself and what you want out of your job and your career. Because how you take care of yourself, sleeping, eating healthy, moving your body, finding interests, all of that is far more important than your career and even more important than your social life. One of my clients right now is about to start her first full-time job. Well, by the time this episode airs, she'll be a month into it. So it was before her first day, she told me that she might have to cancel a family trip to Halloween Horror Nights because she would have to fly back on a Monday and miss some work only a few weeks into working there. To which I helped her understand that you're allowed to live your life. In fact, you need to live your life outside of your career. Just communicate with them on your first day that you have this family trip and want to know what the protocol is since her PTO won't have kicked in yet. I told her to prepare to take a half a day of no pay, or you could ask to make up the 4 missing hours throughout the rest of the week. But life does not stop because you are working 40 hours a week. On to the next topic of what no one tells you about is social media. It can make it really challenging for you to grasp the concept of how unimportant a social status is in the real world because you constantly see people online living it up with their friends in their 20s and doing all of these cool things. So you feel like you also need to be doing something similar or have a weekend filled with social plans in order to also be living it up in your 20s. But your own health comes first. And that means finding people who are there for you and not just for the social group. Not picking friends just because they're fun or it looks like they're having fun. No one told you making and keeping friendships as an adult would be hard. And actually, at the time of me planning this episode out, I recently pitched my book club at my friend's event called Charlotte Pitch Partners. And while pitching why people should join my book club, I mentioned one of the purposes behind creating it. And that is because making friends as an adult is hard, and seeing your friends regularly is also hard. and book club reserves a spot on the calendar in advance for us to come together and catch up for a common reason, which is the book of the month, and then yap about other life updates as well. Because even when you finally find your adult friends in your city, keeping them, as in seeing them frequently enough, is tougher than you could ever imagine. Everyone has complicated schedules and other commitments, interests, and friends, so sometimes you'll go a month or 2 or 3 without hanging out, and then you're going to feel disconnected and you don't fully understand why. And that's something no one tells you about, because you go from grade school to college where you're pretty much seeing the same people over and over again with similar schedules and places to gather. And in the real world, there are so many other variables at play and places to go, so what it takes to keep your friends in the loop of your life and vice versa is a hell of a lot more effort than what you're used to. Simply because proximity is a massive factor in friendships, and you grew up with this proximity, with classrooms and clubs and sports. But as adults, nothing is consistent. So your friend could start out down the hall and end up 30 minutes away, or even multiple states away. So it's both making new friends as an adult and then keeping those friends at the top of your mind as two things that no one tells you about. Under that topic of friendship, no one tells you that you're going to cycle through friendships a lot. And it doesn't mean something is wrong with you or that you're bad at making friends, but rather it's because you're surrounded by so many more different walks of life. People who grew up differently from you, and as you carve away at friendships, in other words, as you get to know them, you're going to realize that this person actually isn't a friend for you. People are also going to grow and change a lot in their 20s. Their priorities will shift, their vision will change, and you're going to come to a point where you're no longer on the same page. That the page is so different, you can't relate to this person anymore. You're also going to grow and change and learn more about what you are looking for in a friend, what you require, and who fits the bill. Not to mention how out of place you're going to feel throughout this entire decade. No one tells you the insane amount of doubt or imposter syndrome as you go to try something new or change your ways, and the people you might lose along the way of this self-discovery. I know when I realized I don't like alcohol and stopped consuming it for the most part, I would get really hard on myself and think, why can't I just be like everyone else? Enjoy the drink, let the night slip away, let loose. Similarly, being an entrepreneur at the ripe age of 24, anytime I would question if this is the path for me, I would think, why can't I, quote unquote, be normal and be content with a 9 to 5? Why is my brain different? Feeling out of place is part of your 20s because you're finally stepping into your individual self. You go your whole life listening to everyone else tell you the path to follow, how to behave, a cog in a machine. You're limited to who you're friends with and the people you're surrounded by. And then you're given this new level of freedom, where you can make choices for yourself, take risks, see how things play out, which means that you're going to learn a lot about yourself, your likes, dislikes, and who you are, and it could very well look starkly different from who you used to be. This identity that's being formed is going to make you feel very out of place. It's going to lead you to losing people and finding new people, because you do outgrow a lot of people from your teens and early 20s as you continue to grow, which also means that your first love, your relationship that you enter into when you're 20, 21, or 22 is probably not your forever person. There are definitely exceptions to this, so don't come for me, but I will say that for a majority of you listening, you're going to go through a breakup, and you're going to need that breakup to teach you a lot about yourself, your relationships, and what you're looking for in your person. So yeah, the relationship you enter into in your early 20s is not the person you're going to marry, but I can almost guarantee that it will teach you a lot about what you do want. It's like a canon event to break up with your college boo and find your own way. Besides, it's so important to be single for a chunk of your 20s because of what you learn about yourself, the life you create for yourself, and the standards you set so you know you're not settling for some finance bro who replies with one-word texts and emojis. You're going to realize really soon that you are in charge of your own experiences. Meaning, if you don't like something, you have the power to change it. And if you do like something, you have the power to create more of it. It's not on mom and dad to bail you out. You can't place blame on anyone else besides yourself. No one told you that part of being an adult means the level of accountability required on you to show up for yourself, to pay your bills, buy your groceries, make your meals, choose your friends, choose how you spend your free time and free money, decide on a career path. Your life is fully in your hands for the first time ever. And it's why I do what I do, because holy shit, it's overwhelming and there is no roadmap and it does feel very lonely. But it doesn't have to be. To which I'm going to remind you that there's always openings to work with me if you need help navigating your 20s. The link to book a call is always in the show notes, and it's on my website, justdiamondcoaching.com. It's on my Instagram. But I want to tell you that there are so many pieces and parts of adulthood that is forced learning and that no one tells you about. And it's not to act as a punishment. It's an opportunity to grow and allow you to evolve into the life you want for yourself that you don't know is there for you yet. While also knowing that that life will grow and evolve as you come across more and more learning experiences. You're going to struggle. You're going to have your own challenges. But these hardships don't define you. They become a part of your success story. And yes, it could be the wildest, most complicated, makes absolutely no sense, has you screaming, "Why me?" or "This isn't fair" kind of story. But trust me, it's part of becoming an adult, which is exactly how I'm going to wrap up this episode. So, if you liked what you heard, if you learned something new, if you know an adult who is frustrated with adulting things, then please share this episode, post it to social media, send it to a friend. Just please help me help the other 20-somethings who are trying to navigate the most confusing decade of their life. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.